Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the special meeting of the Plainville Town Council, September 16, 2024, to order. Before we get into the agenda, if everyone could please stand, I'm going to ask Councilman Getterman to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And as you can tell by the attendance here tonight, we do have something pretty special going on tonight. It's always special when we appoint police officers, but as you can see, today's, for me at least, tonight's a little extra special. Before we move on, I'd like to entertain a motion to move item number 1 under appointments and resignations.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so what we'll do now is the police officer appointment is up. I'm going to turn it over to the chief. He'll say a few words, and then we will get to the council's business. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for moving that item to the top of the agenda. And you're right, this is a very special appointment for us. I've been here a few times here when we have hired an officer. This one's extra special because Nate Peterson is also one of our family. We've known Nate for a long time. Even though he grew up in Burlington, he really grew up in Plainville as well. And following his father's footsteps, his father Eric has served the town for 25 years, still serves in a law enforcement capacity as the chief of Coventry. And now his son, Nate, is going to join our family. He's already a part of our family, but I'm so proud that he's going to join us as a brother in blue. A very younger brother than me anyway, but a brother in blue nonetheless. He'll be doing a great job. A little bit about Nate. He grew up in Burlington, like I said. Went to Plymouth State University to study criminology. He's currently studying at Central Connecticut State University to pursue his degree in criminology. We promised his father that he was going to finish that degree, no doubt about it. So we're going to make sure he keeps that promise while he's working. Nate has worked for us in our summer patrol for the last, I think, 3 years. Does a great job for us there. And he also volunteers at the Plainville Food Pantry, which I had no idea he did that until I sat down and we did an interview for him. That really shows his character and his willingness to help others and to really just do it because it's the right thing to do. And that really speaks volumes about him. He has an incredible enthusiasm to be an officer. That's all he's ever wanted. And all he's ever wanted is to be an officer here. And so I'm going to welcome him, as we all will do, with open arms. He comes with my highest recommendation. I know he's going to make us proud. So I respectfully request that the town council appoint Nate Peterson as Plainville's newest police officer. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. At this point, is there Councilman Gedman care to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion to appoint Nathan Peterson to the position of police officer effective September 17th, 2024. And as a condition of continued employment, they must successfully complete all aspects of the basic police officer training program at the Connecticut Police Academy and the Plainville Police Department Field Training Program.
Second that.
All right, a motion in a couple seconds. Any comments or questions? Other than Nate, welcome. Officially, I guess, we know you'll stay in line because Dad will kick your butt if you don't.
Yeah.
We understand that. But all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, Nate. So at this point, Nate, if you can join the town clerk. We have now some official business to take care of as well.
Try something new because I guess I don't talk loud enough. Okay, could you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Connecticut, the laws and ordinances of the town of Plainville, and obey the rules, regulations, and orders of the police department, that you will discharge the duties as police officer for the town of Plainville according to the best of your knowledge and ability?
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And take your time because I'm sure a lot of people want to get pictures. Congratulations. You want to say a few words? Yeah, why don't you turn the podium?
There we go. Yeah.
That's day 2 of training.
Yeah, I'd just like to say a quick few words.
Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, I want to thank Chief Vangelli and Plainville Town Manager Mike Paulus for believing in me and providing me with this opportunity. Can't express how much it means to me, and I'm all in for it. And quick thank you to everyone for being here, over here too. You guys are all so close to me, and I can't wait to be working with you all. And I even got my man Jack over here from Norton Park. I've worked really hard the past few years to really make myself a good part of this community, and that's a good example right there. Yeah. And I'm really excited. Thank you all.
Well, we're very excited to have you. Thank you. Now, I know most of you want to stay and see how town business gets run, but if you have to go because you have something better to do tonight, we'll give you a few minutes if you need to exit. We do have a presentation about our sewer department coming up, which Joe would be happy if anyone stayed because Joe loves to talk about the sewers, I'll tell you. But yes, if you have to leave, but thank you very much, everyone. Congratulations, Nate. All right. All right, thank you everyone for your patience. Next on the agenda, are you all set?
Yes.
Okay. Next, we have tie and bond. We do have a presentation with Joe Aloso, our superintendent of the sewer treatment plant. I don't know who gets to speak first, but I'll let you guys figure that out. Good evening.
It's good to be back.
Yes, we have talked a lot lately, haven't we?
No, go ahead.
Good evening. My name's Steve Siegel. I'm the project director for the upcoming wastewater facilities plan. My colleague Al Wells is on the other side of Joe. And we understand that on the August 19th meeting of the WPCA, Joe kind of walked through the general goals of the wastewater facility plan, what it was about. We're here tonight to kind of flesh out some of the details, give you a little bit broader sense of the specific scope. You'll see in the package we've presented a draft scope, schedule, and fee. There's 20 pages of scope, so I'm assuming we're not going to go through 20 pages. So our intention tonight is just kind of recap what we see as some of the highlights, the goals of the project, why we're doing it, and give you the opportunity to ask any questions. So with that as kind of an introduction, I'll just start by saying, what is a wastewater facility plan and why is it necessary? And generally, it's considered to be essentially a roadmap for the town council / WPCA, the town manager, and Joe Aloso to plan for strategic improvements of the wastewater infrastructure. And in Plainville, it's a fairly significant infrastructure that you have between the collection system, which is about 86 miles of sewers, 9 pumping stations, and a major wastewater treatment facility. Wastewater facility plans generally look at the anticipated needs of a community over a 20-year period. And coincidentally, the last time a facility plan was done here in Plainville was 21 years ago. So why now? What's the driver for taking this on at this time? Joe has noticed over recent years that flows to the facility have continued to increase, both in terms of additional residential and commercial use of the sewers, but also increasing amounts of infiltration getting into the system, that is extraneous water not related to wastewater. And it's causing a number of problems. Surcharging of the sewer system robs capacity. It also has the potential for causing backups in homes and businesses, and it's a serious issue that has been kind of creeping up over time. But maybe the trigger that really has brought us all here at this moment is this past year as a consequence of the increasing flows to the plant. The wastewater facility was essentially overloaded with flow to the point where it caused a violation of the town's NPDES permit, which is a permit issued jointly by EPA and the Connecticut Deep for the operation of the facility. And an inspection was done back in May in which the Deep official noted that when flows reach a certain amount for a specified period of time, by permit, it triggers the necessity to start the wastewater facility planning process again. And that's kind of where we're at. So in the last couple months, this is a fairly complex undertaking because there's so many fingers that a project like this entails. That is the collection system, the pump stations, the treatment plant, meeting DEEP's current, any anticipated regulations, trying to figure out what the flows are going to be 20 years hence. There's a lot of steps that have to take place, and that's why I mentioned our plan, which has been sent to DEEP for their review, encompasses 20 pages of specific things, many of which are prescriptive by DEEP for the requirements of a facility planning process. But the goal tonight, again, is to kind of walk through some of the highlights. We've identified an 18-month schedule. We just want to fill you in on how did we come up with that, what do we envision occurring in those 18 months, and of the 20 pages, again, kind of some of the highlights. And what we've put together is a budget for the project. Now, I should point out that Connecticut DEEP is very very committed to a process that is a qualifications-based selection process. They don't want communities to select on fee because it's been their experience that it's a race to the bottom when you're competing for a study. Designs are very concrete. All bidders would know what a design would entail, but a study is much harder to get your arms around. So DEEP has taken it upon themselves to to serve as a reviewer, and because of their experience reviewing projects throughout the states, they have a very good database of what their expectations should be. So this project, in terms of the scope and the budget we're going to present tonight, both of which have to be reviewed and approved by Connecticut DEEP, and that process is ongoing. We understand informally that they've reviewed the scope of the project and feel that we've kind of hit the highlights and the goals that they look for in the scope. They're currently reviewing the budget. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Al, who will kind of walk through some of the highlights of the scope.
Thanks, Steve. Hi, my name is Al Wells. I am the project manager for this proposed scope of work. I'm also with Ty and Bond. And as Steve mentioned, I just wanted to step through some of the tasks which we consider the cornerstone of this facilities plan. They're all obviously important and required, but there's certain ones where a lot of the effort is that I just wanted to explain. So I'm going to start with task 2, the infiltration inflow analysis. And that actually begins on page 3 of the scope of work that follows in your packet. But I'll walk you through it again. I don't want to have you get deep into reading it. I can give you the highlights, and happy to answer any questions as we step through this. But infiltration and inflow. So what is it? Why are we looking at it? So as Steve mentioned, flows to the treatment plant have been observed to increase significantly, especially during wet weather. So springtime, even snow melt, late winter, as groundwater levels rise and precipitation increases. Why is that getting into the sewer? Because the sewer is aged, and it's getting into the old cracked pipes where there's bad joints. It's getting into manholes, and it's taxing the wastewater collection system, those pipes, their ability to transport that water. And just as importantly, it's affecting pump stations, their ability to pump the wastewater to your treatment plant, and it's affecting the ability of the treatment plant to treat that quantity of flow. And again, it's extraneous flow. It's not wastewater. It's rainwater. It's stormwater. It's groundwater. So we have, and you don't have to even go to it, but there's a plan in there where we've divided up the collection system into its 24 sub-basins. Each sub-basin has to be metered to find those flows. Think of your collection system like you would almost like a tree. You've got branches to the collection system. The only way to measure that extraneous flow is to put a meter on each one of those branches before it goes into the trunk headed to the treatment plant. So that'll be done over a 10-week period during the springtime. A little bit before the springtime, it's better to get out there early so you can see what baseline sort of quote-unquote normal dry flows look like, and then you can see how it reacts to storm events. And from there, you can quantify how much extraneous flow is going to the treatment plant, and more importantly, you can come up with a plan to identify it and remove it to the extent that it's feasible and cost-effective. So that is what the infiltration inflow analysis encompasses. knowing that information and also understanding that you won't get rid of all of the infiltration and inflow, it's just not cost effective. There might be some isolated small leaks that it's just not worth the expense of digging up the road to go after it. But you'll certainly go after a large percentage of it, and we can estimate that, and we'll actually have subsequent work beyond this plan aimed at removing it once we find these locations. But we can estimate how much we can remove, and then we can add that to task 3. It's key. It's sort of the lead into task 3, which starts on page 6, which is flow and load projections. So wastewater flow, and just as importantly, wastewater load, which is the strength of the wastewater. So as you can imagine, depending on your customer, a typical residential house is going to be a lot different than a restaurant or a food processing facility or a brewery, where the waste could be very strong, and it takes a lot more energy when it's received at the treatment plant to treat it to the permit limits. So you need to understand both. You need to understand quantity, which is flow, and you need to understand its strength or load. We call it load because we measure the strength in pounds. But at any rate, that takes sitting down, meeting with all of the stakeholders in town, understanding current and plans for future development, and even doing a build-out analysis, looking at lots that are could be redeveloped or undeveloped parcels, and helping us envision what might be developed there, and then correspondingly, what kind of wastewater flow and load might come from that type of development. And that'll be done over a 20-year planning period. So that'll be the build-out analysis, with the goal, again, of understanding how much of that would be wastewater that would need to be received and treated and conveyed to the treatment plant, and making sure that the infrastructure is adequate to do that. And when it's not, coming up with alternatives, which comes later, in terms of how to deal with those projections. So that's task 3. Task 5, which begins on page 9, is sewer system capacity evaluation, which I touched on. But again, once we know these quantities of wastewater and strength of wastewater, we will look at the existing sewer system and its ability to convey that wastewater to the treatment plant. So already it's our understanding that there have been issues in town where during those high flows, there are bottlenecks that exist within the collection system that'll need to be addressed. And we will likely find other bottlenecks when we evaluate those future projected flows against the size of the existing system as it stands today. So that's sewer system capacity evaluation. Task 6 is pump stations evaluation. And in addition to just looking at the ability of a pump station to pump wastewater, we need to look at the condition of the facility. Many of these are older. There's actually a figure in there that lists the dates of your 9 different pump stations. Obviously, we're working on rehabilitating one of them now, but you'll see there's others that have age to them. So it's looking at the condition of the equipment that's there. The equipment might be in its prime capable of pumping whatever flows are projected that it would receive, but that doesn't mean it can continue to do so. So we will come up with a capital improvement plan for those components of the pump station that are aged and need to be upgraded and or replaced. Then task 7, I just highlighted it because there should be significant opportunity there to get operational cost savings. We will do an energy efficiency evaluation at the treatment plant for all large electrical demands there. And also looking at, it's not just the size of the motors, but how they operate together and the different types of loads. There's something called a power factor. So you've got different type of loads, and sometimes they can work against each other and cause peaking in the electrical demand, which then drives the amount you pay to the utility even higher. So the idea there, or the methodology there, is to do a complete evaluation of all those electrical loads and determine ways to operate it more efficiently, whether it's upgrading to more efficient motors or changing the configuration of how things run together. So typically we find good opportunities for cost savings on operational costs associated with the energy efficiency evaluation. And finally, task 8 is the water pollution control facility evaluation. And that's very comprehensive, where we look at every single process in the treatment plant, all of those critical processes needed to, again, handle the quantity of flow and the strength of flow while maintaining your stringent permit limits. So that'll go step through step of every process in the treatment plant. We'll look at the hydraulic profile of the treatment plant, again, just to understand how efficiently the water moves through the treatment plant, and how we, if we have to, can add or strengthen processes there within the treatment plant. So those were the major tasks. Steve, anything that I did not touch on there, or Joe?
No, I would just add that one of the goals of the project would be to identify, as Al alluded to, the age and condition of all of the equipment, both at the pump stations and the wastewater treatment facility. Because you may recall the treatment plant was upgraded, 15, 16 years ago to the SBR process, but even as recently as 5 or 6 years ago, the plant was again upgraded for phosphorus removal. So some of that earlier facility is aging, and there will be opportunities to improve the energy efficiency, but it will also provide like a roadmap, because the equipment that's at the plant now doesn't need to be replaced today or tomorrow or even next year, but at some point, certainly within the 20-year window, it will need to be replaced. So we would envision this plan will lay out what would be the replacement costs for the various electrical and mechanical systems over time, so you can start thinking about 5-year capital plans to replace some of those systems.
Can you guys hear me? Yeah, Mike? So, we talk a lot, and we always do studies, right? We do a study, we put it on the shelf, it sits there. We probably study the same thing 4 times, and we never do anything. This isn't a study. This is a plan. Okay, this is, as they said, a roadmap, but it's to give the town, the council, and myself and others, where we're going to go from here. We have a lot of development out there. It comes across my desk all the time. They want to put breweries in, they want to put this in. We're building tons of condos. We're taking single-family homes and making them 10, 15 units, and that's great. And we should be able to handle that, but we need to be ready for that, and we're not there yet. So, we want to be able to look at our equipment that we have now. We do a CIP every year, capital improvement plan. It's more so reactive than proactive. Okay, so, when we're coming to you for a heating system, it's because we don't have heat. It's not because 3 years ago we knew that heating system was on its way out, and that's what this is going to do. Is it's going to give some life expectancy so that moving forward, people will know the upcoming costs that are going to happen. We did talk about costs of the study at the last meeting. I think, Chris, you wanted 6 figures. I said it was going to be 7, but it is going to be less than $500,000. And Deep's going to pay 55% of that. And they are going to review everything, because it's as much, if not more, their money. They think it's more their money, but since taxes fund them, it's really our money. But so they are going to look really closely at that, and they have agreed to the scope, which is the work piece. They should have an agreement on the fee, and I can assure you the fee won't be more. Deep's not going to look at this and say, hey, let's spend some more money in Plainville. That's not going to happen. So if anything, they're going to cut that dollar amount back. So what we would be looking for, if we don't get an answer from them, would be an approval based on that number, based on them approving it. So that it's really critical that we set this stuff up in the spring. If we don't set it up in the spring, then we put it off a whole year, because the rainy season is going to be March, April, May. So we need to do that I&I piece during March, April, May. And if we're not making decisions early enough that we can set aside those meters, because everyone in the state wants to do this stuff. So we need to reserve our meters and get them ready and be able to do it in the spring. And I really think this is the way Plainville needs to go. We're running great, we're doing a great job, but 5 years from now, I want to feel comfortable that we're still doing a great job. So I would urge you guys to jump on board, and we'll be ready.
All right. Are there any questions or comments? I mean, just, I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself, but you talk about infiltration and inflow. Will this tell us like where it's happening? You know what I mean? Like you mentioned pipes crack and, roots get into it and water leaks through there. Like, is that how detailed we can get to some degree?
So, like I mentioned, we've divided it up into your sub-basins, which already exist. So it'll tell us where the where the amount of infiltration and inflow is in each
Each
subbasin.
area, yeah, okay.
And then for those subbasins that have what we would refer to, and there's standards for this, excessive inflow, excessive infiltration, then you go in and actually, things like running a camera through the pipe,
that
which is not part of
physically
this.
look at it at that point.
We can't estimate it now because
Yeah.
I can't tell you
Yeah.
how
No,
many,
yeah,
the
yeah.
extent of it. But this is the first and the biggest step in terms of identifying where it is and how much of it is there. And then you go and find those defects with things like cameras and smoke testing to find where they are.
See where it's coming
And
from,
you can
yeah.
quantify then how much each defect is contributing. And like I said, you might find small defects where you're like, pass, it's not worth it. And then you're going to find gushers too.
Yep,
Where
yep.
you're like, okay, that's very cost effective. So that would be a follow-up phase to this. And that would lead to construction work where you're actually remedying the.
And I
defects.
imagine we have some pipes that are very old, like should have been replaced.
1940s. The
Nice,
first sewer was late 1940s.
okay, all right. And is there any, with the infiltration, is there like, I don't want to say a standard number, but we're exceeding our limit by quite a bit, and we've consistently done that. But can we say a third of what the flow is going to the sewer plant? Is infiltration? Is there any standard number that typically? I mean, I imagine different systems are different ages, so it's all relative, I guess. Depending on the system, but
It's all over the place. It
can
really
be, yeah.
depends on the age of the sewers, whether
Yep.
it was tile pipe or newer types of pipe. But one of the concerns that Joe raised early on, based on the state inspection in May, was that the current level of infiltration getting into the sewer has already caused a permit violation. So it's clear that one of the keys that we'll be struggling with during the study is, can you remove enough infiltration when you consider how much additional residential, commercial, industrial flow will be added? Can you remove enough infiltration to get that peak flow down low enough
Yep.
so you don't have the violation?
so our current situation can
Right.
accommodate that.
And if you can't, then one needs to look at the wastewater plant carefully and say, well, how can you enhance the treatment at the
Yep.
plant to try to get that number down? Because, that would be a sacred cow for DEEP, is permit violations. That's a no-no.
No, we want to avoid that.
Yeah.
So a rule of thumb would be, let's just say there was 1 million gallons of infiltration that we identified. We should be able to remove at least half of that,
Okay.
maybe a little bit more.
Yep.
We're never going to remove it all.
Right.
It's just not feasible.
Yep.
But we should be able to remove at least half, possibly a little bit more.
Okay.
And that frees up for growth. I mean,
Yep.
that's really what's going to hold the town back is having too much infiltration coming in.
All right. Well, thank you. Anyone else with anything? Everybody's. All right. So what's the next step for us? Kind of wait and,
So
wait till the spring and we start measuring stuff?
not quite.
Go ahead.
What I'd like to see is on October 6th, which is your next meeting, for the Water Pollution Control Authority to make a vote to fund the project.
Okay.
I should have responses from DEEP by then. If I don't have a response from DEEP by then it would be a contingent vote, but I would like to get that vote done so that the people will start to rent me stuff.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure, there's nothing else you want to talk about?
No, we'll
I know you
no,
guys
we're going to
love to
see you
talk.
again in a couple of weeks. We're on a
That's
roll.
my bedtime again, I know.
We're on a roll. Thank you again.
Thank you.
All right, and just
Thank you, Joe.
one small item before we move on to the minutes. We do have to add something under new business, which there should be a copy of item number 5, a small business loan should be added under new business. If someone could just make a motion to add that to the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes, so tax refunds will move to item number 6. And at this point, no public hearing scheduled for this evening, so we can move to the minutes of the previous meetings. Anyone care to make a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Councilwoman Christopher.
motion to approve the August 19th, 2024 Water Pollution Control Authority Annual Meeting, the August 19th, 2024 regular meeting, and the September 9th, 2024 special meeting.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any comments, questions, changes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Announcements and reports. Any announcements or reports? Councilwoman Moranti, I'll just start with you.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Actually, the three of the groups to whom I'm the liaison all met last week, so I'll just kind of run through a couple of highlights from each of those three meetings. I met Tuesday with the Library Board of Trustees. They don't meet during the summer, so the Library Director Tomlinson, reported on a very busy summer. The number of card holders is up. Still increasing demand for digital media. They continue to talk about the strategic plan, and as I think I mentioned at the last meeting, there's a plan, I think at some point in October, they will be presenting that to the town council. They've also announced the homebound delivery service, which you may have heard about. So that's another innovation that they're doing. And on Wednesday night, there was the Conservation Commission make the announcement, river cleanup. It's the fall river cleanup, 9 to 12 on September 28th. It's in the Pequannock River area. I think everybody's familiar with West Cemetery and that drive. You usually see a gate there, but it'll be opened for the river cleanup. You can drive down and park your car further down, and it'll be in that area, and they need volunteers. They also are continuing to talk about Sustainable Connecticut and some of the first action steps that they wish to take. And they did highlight the manager's minute, which Town Manager Paulus did specifically on Paderewski Pond and how it is really a home to a lot of wildlife. He also highlighted the unfortunately persistent problem of discarded fishing line, which can be damaging to birds especially. Thursday was Committee on Aging. In fact, tomorrow they're having their grandparents raising grandchildren state conference, which they have hosted here in Plainville for quite a number of years now. Renovation of the cafe kitchen will be getting underway. They're pleased. They're almost to full capacity with their dial-a-ride drivers, which has been a little bit problematic. It's sometimes difficult to find people for those part-time positions, but they are almost there. And of course, it's a very important service, so it's important that it be staffed. And the senior center building itself will turn 50 in 2025. The building was renovated. It was the former police station, which some people may remember.
Nope.
No, I do. Okay. But, and actually, that was really the beginning of the senior center, as an entity as well. So they're planning some of the celebrations that will take place next year. And that's it in a nutshell.
All right, thank you. Yeah.
Dan remembers too, and Dave, I bet, remembers when that was the police station?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so there's three of us, okay.
Well, thank you for that. Anyone else with any announcements or reports?
No, let's move on.
All right, we will. On that note, we will move on. What we could do now is move to appointments and resignations, item number 2.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Underwood.
motion to reappoint David Albert to the Board of Assessment Appeals for the term ending October 1st, 2030.
Second.
A motion and a second. 2030. That's kind of
Yeah.
Scary.
interesting to see that showing up. But any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Underwood.
motion to appoint Kyle Ross, 50 Pinnacle Road, as a probationary firefighter to the Plainville Fire Department.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Any other appointments or reappointments this evening?
No.
All right, we can move through the Board of Education report and move right to item 7, report of the town attorney. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Oh, excuse me.
I did want to give a report this evening. First of all, we had a meeting and we settled 4 tax appeals in the last week. So we've only got a couple left and they're pretty minor. So I'm really pleased with the way that those have gone without having a really, I thought the negotiations were pretty reasonable, and not having to try them and spend money on them, I thought was a good result. I also wanted to talk about the amendment that we discussed regarding the town manager's contract. We have reached an agreement with the town manager, the town council has, with regard to amending his contract as a result of a review of his performance, as well as having negotiations with regard to some of the issues that have been raised. And I just wanted to, in particular, I wanted to highlight a couple of the things with regard to the contract. We have it's titled the Second Amendment to the Employment Agreement, because we had one amendment last year, but the only real change in that was the amount of compensation. Whereas this year, while there is a change in the compensation, there were other changes that were made. In particular, there was a change that was made with regard to the residency requirement, and in order to address some of the concerns that have been expressed with regard to that. And I just wanted to give a little bit of history. So, as you know, we came on to this as far as being the town attorneys in December of last year. And at that point, obviously the contract had been signed with the manager, and he had been in his position for a while. So when we were first asked about the issues with regard to the residency, we did do some investigation, some interviews, and discussed it with members of the council and the manager. I am going to talk about it now because we have reached an agreement. And so in my view, in my opinion, it's appropriate to discuss it now. I had reluctance before, and I did advise the council not to discuss it in the past, because whenever I review legal matters with my clients, I will always tell them the pros and the cons. And typically the cons are the other person's argument, which I don't disclose. That's attorney-client privilege, and it's things that we did not want to have while we were still talking about a potential agreement and how to resolve this question. So now I think is appropriate time to have some discussion with regard to the history of all this. So when we went in, we began to investigate, and we discovered that originally, when the town was looking for another town manager, the residency requirement seemed to be something that was preventing a lot of applications from being considered, and that there was some indication that that was something that might change. And as we know, there was a referendum vote last year with regard to that. And so those were the kinds of representations that were made that eventually led our current manager to seek the employment. And so under that backdrop, we had that contract that was negotiated last year. That contract was something that we inherited, as did this council that's now present. And given the terms of that contract, it was not a clear-cut issue, in my legal opinion, with regard to the residency and the timing and what would be reasonable. The charter uses the word tenure, and tenure means while he's employed as the town manager. In my view, it would be preferable, when you want to consider that type of a requirement, to specifically put a contract term that clarifies what that means and what the expectation is. In my opinion, just the term the way it is in the charter now is somewhat ambiguous and doesn't really have a specific time. So that was one of the issues that we were confronted with when we were asked with regard to the enforcement of that residency requirement. The other one was that there's an arbitration clause in the contract so that you would not go to court to enforce any rights that the town may have or that the manager may have. you would go to arbitration. And in my view, in my opinion, and I've been doing this for over 40 years, in this kind of a dispute, I would not have recommended an arbitration agreement. I would want to go to court. Arbitrations are relaxed processes to resolve disputes. Arbitrators are not bound to strictly follow the law. Appealing an arbitration award is extremely difficult, and the issues that would have been raised going through an arbitration, given the term tenure and given what my feeling was ambiguity and given the actual contract terms that the manager had agreed to, my opinion was that it would be very difficult for me to predict how that arbitration would come out with some of the other issues that I think would be raised. One of the things, in my opinion, is that when you want to hold somebody to the letter of the law, you're better off in court. Whereas when you go to arbitration, arbitrators try to be fair. And so I just myself would not have put an arbitration clause in there. But at this point that we've resolved this, I feel comfortable explaining why we did this. And what we've done is, and the manager, as you know, the manager has expressed his consent to the contract that we have proposed. Now, there hasn't been a vote yet, but my understanding is that the manager has consented. And so I just wanted to highlight the term, what we did with regard to the residency. And what we basically did was we have terms now in the amended agreement where the manager has an obligation to expeditiously relocate to Plainville. And we also have a requirement that he do so, he act in good faith in doing that. And we have spelled out the various elements that the town council can consider in determining whether or not that manager acts in good faith in an attempt to relocate. And we spelled those out, and some of those included whether or not he retains a real estate agent, the amount of inventory of comparable homes, the number of homes that he tours, the number of homes that he bids, and there's a list of factors that the council can consider. My view was that under the circumstances, and given the limited inventory from what I've heard from a lot of parties, that there's a very limited inventory, that it would be reasonable for the council now, the manager is going to agree to this, he's going to act in good faith, and we'll take a look at those benchmarks. And I thought, and I had suggested, and I believe that the managers accepted this, and I believe the council will accept it, that they then determine, the council, or the town is the term I use, but it would be the council, determined by October 1st of 25 whether or not the managers acted in good faith, if he hasn't already moved, and decide at that point whether or not he's acted in good faith. And the one thing that the manager has done, and I think it's a major concession, and it shows his commitment to coming to Plainville. He has agreed that if the council finds that he did not act in good faith, that would be cause for termination of his contract. And that is something that I believe that he has given to the town, which I don't believe we had the right to do previously under the charter and the contract that had been entered into as I've described and with regard to the arbitration clause. So I think that this is a very reasonable way. I think that's a reasonable time frame, and it avoids a lot of expense and uncertainty. And I really think that it gives him a fair opportunity to, at this point, attempt to relocate or exercise good faith, and then the council can decide, how this will be handled. But I think this is a very fair and reasonable way to resolve it. As I said, I really wanted to make the point that there's a lot more involved. There's a lot more to this. And I've been trying cases for a long time. I've probably tried as many cases as almost any lawyer in Connecticut. And so I have no problem trying cases. I don't like trying cases that I have a hard time predicting. And also, I don't like trying cases where I'm not comfortable that it's fair, but it might be legal. just think we're better off having resolved it like this. I appreciate the manager really, I think, really conceding something in the way this has been agreed to. And I just wanted the town to know, I want everybody to understand why we went the route that we did and why I will take the blame for not letting anybody talk about it. That was why I gave you that advice. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
All right, any questions, comments? No? All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
We can now move to item 8, report of the town manager.
Okay, good evening. I have 5 items, and we've just added the fifth, I guess the fifth item, sixth item. But I'm going to start with a report on the Norton Park trees update. And I want to point out that you should all have in front of you a map and also a report, which is the arborist report. So there's in terms of background information. But as you know, I reported at an earlier previous meeting that there was an issue at Norton Park with the trees based on the June 23rd storm event that toppled a tree in the parking lot at Norton Park, and also a tree on private property that damaged a fence near the pool, and it was just property damage there. There wasn't any children involved in terms of being in the park. So this event highlighted the need for a more in-depth evaluation of the trees throughout Norton Park. The superintendent was able to enlist the help of Timothy Holcomb, a licensed arborist with Holcomb Tree Incorporated, and he provided a report on the condition of several trees and provided his recommendation to address these concerns, which is outlined in that report. That is the report of Mr. Holcomb, the arborist. And the report recommended the removal of 12 trees within the park and continued monitoring of several other trees that are unhealthy. So what you have before you is a plan, and actually we're only going to, from a budgetary standpoint, get to 10 trees, 8 within the Grove or the parking lot area, and then 10 over by Medley Street by the soccer field. So this color map will indicate our replanting plan, if you will. So 10 are posted, subject to the process that we go through, but 10 have been posted for removal based on their assessment and the condition that they're in. And our plan would be to plant 18 trees as part of a replanting plan in the spring of 2025 at this point. I mean, that could be accelerated. There's sort of a debate on whether what the best time of year to plant trees for the best possible success. It could be fall, but likely spring, and our indication is would we go for spring. So we haven't even gone through the process yet of just notified and posted the trees, but likely they'll be coming down. So 10 will come down, 18 will be planted. It breaks down to the blue indicate the oaks. There'll be 7 oaks that are planted, as you can see, with those being on the perimeter, and then also 11 red maple. I believe there'll be maples of some type, and those are in red depicted on the map. So you can see there. I will tell you there are more. We're seeing other indications of disease and/or decay that we're monitoring trees. So next season, likely, and going forward every season, we've talked to the superintendent about a budget and a plan, ongoing monitoring to continue to watch the condition of these trees, and those that are dangerous and need to be taken down will be taken down, but we'll add in, continue on expanding upon the replanting plan. So that is my report on Norton Park tree update. I'm happy to pause to take any questions on that.
Yes, any questions?
I just have one
Go ahead.
commentary or statement. The 3 trees, the 2 oaks and the 1 red maple over by the pool,
Yes.
Are those going to interfere with the bike trail at all?
Great question. I don't believe so, but I will raise that issue with Sunny tomorrow. Yeah, good point, because that is the general pattern. Not likely, but we'll certainly have that addressed.
I'd hate to put in a tree.
No,
and then
right.
Take it out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the same, to the point of, what we're learning is, if we had trees in bad spots, we're likely not going to put them back in those spots, right? So we're going to try and learn from that and try to find better locations that will support that growth. For example, if you look at the pool location, just beyond, you see the pool, but there are two outbuildings there, the pool house and the other facility there. Just past that, there is I think, some type of fruit trees that we were trying to put in there that never took, because what we realized was one of the furthest building is feeding a pipe underground and out to the canal, and those things that we're just going to document and make sure that we're not doing that. We're looking for more appropriate areas and other issues around the park in general. We'll give it more study, more evaluation. We'll continue to put together the best plan we can. I feel bad that any of the trees have to come down, quite honestly, because it's a well-established park with majestic trees, and it's beautiful. So we'll do everything we can to reestablish, replant, and continue to monitor those trees that are aging and failing. And I think there's always a struggle to find, to fight the battle against disease, and whether it's, hitting the oaks or maples or whatever species it hits, but we'll do our best.
All right. Any other questions, comments? All right. Next.
The number 2, White Oak redevelopment funding update. So just wanted to bring you up to speed on a little bit of a twist that we had with the state with respect to funding, that we went through a competitive application round, and we were presented with an award amount. DCD Brownfield office is now proposing a new hybrid funding solution. The town will still receive the full round 19 funding amount of $1.3 million, but they want to structure it slightly different, whereas the 585 of that will be as a grant, the remaining 809 will be as a forgivable loan. So it's not a full outright grant. They are structuring it as a loan. It will be proposed as a 10-year term, 3% interest. However, there's a 5-year deferment period for the principal and interest payments, tied to what we believe will be the completion of the project, and therefore not triggering the 5-year. At the conclusion of the soil groundwater remediation, Plainville will submit a forgiveness milestone letter with remediation support documentation, and when approved by DCD, the loan is forgiven in full, principal and with principal and accrued interest, so forgiven. And given the non-DEC fundings being leveraged between the town and Newport Realty, there is no matching requirement to secure the loan. And the loan closing process will be the same as it was for the previous grant funding, and recording of the promissory note and any review of drafting can be handled by the town attorney. So it is really just a structural difference and just outlining the terms of the loan portion versus grant, so that we structured in such a way there'll be no out-of-pocket for the town and no match for collateral for the loan. So it's just a restructuring issue there.
Okay. Any questions? All right. Next.
Item number 3, middle school project discussion around the architects. The town issued a request for proposal, RFP, in June of 2024 for the purpose of soliciting architectural and engineering design services from qualified firms for design and renovation at the middle school. The scope of this project involves preliminary design, final design, construction administration. 8 firms responded to the RFP, and 4 were selected for an interview. The Capital Projects Building Committee, charged with overseeing the middle school Plainville renovation project, recommends the Town Council award RFP 2025-02 architectural design and related engineering services for MSP to Castle Booz Associates Incorporated of New Britain, Connecticut, in the amount of $2,601,403. So there is an item under new business to award RFP 2025-02 architectural design and related engineering services for MSP to Castle Booz Inc. of New Britain, Connecticut, in the amount of $2,601,403. And know that Rick is here in the audience, and if there were any questions, I hope that he could supply any additional information. But it was a very good process. I don't think we could have gone wrong in the 4. There was great response in terms of having 8. We got that down to 4. I think all 4 were competent, and I think made it tough for the group to make a decision. But I think they asked great questions. They got great information as much as they could, and I think Castle Booz will serve us well. But certainly, I would hope that Rick could help us in answering any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Thank you, Rick, for being available. Appreciate you being here and all the work that you guys are doing over there. But it sounds like we're okay right now. All right.
Yeah.
Next.
Okay.
That's it. Yep.
Item number 4 is Norton Park Bathhouse and Filter Building roofs. This project encompasses 2 shingled roofs. First one, 1,080 square foot roof on the filter building, and the second, a 4,000 square foot roof on the bathhouse. Both roofs were estimated to be installed just about 25 years ago. They're in poor condition, and according to the roof inspection that we had back in November 2023. So this has been on our radar for some time, and looking forward to move this project along as part of the fiscal year 24-25 capital improvement plans. The town council had allocated a total of $46,500 for the project. The proposal is $31,266, which is under budget for the allocation that we made. So the Building and Grounds Department, and with my concurrence, recommends that the Town Council award bid 2025-09 Norton Park Bathhouse and Filter Building roofs to SR Products, Simon Roofing and Sheet Metal under the TIPS USA vendor contract number 240-60401 in the amount of $31,266. So there is an item under new business to award that bid to SR Products, Simon Roofing, Sheet Metal under TIPS USA vendor contract 240-60401 in the amount of $31,266. So that's an item for your consideration, and certainly answer any questions you may have.
Any questions, anything not related to the report before we go on to the financial dashboard? All right, I guess we're ready for the financial dashboard.
Actually, we have your amended agenda.
Oh, that's true, too. Thank you for cutting me off.
Thank you for adding it. This is a request to process and approve a loan for the small business loan program that the town has, and I'm told, I don't think the council's done one in about 5 years, but it is a very healthy fund, and this is exactly what it was designed to do, is to help small businesses. In this case, we have a request from SMA Realty Incorporated in the amount of $33,600. It'll be used to purchase an electrical discharge machine to allow for more work to be completed in-house, resulting in greater efficiency, lowering costs, and less wait times associated with outsourcing materials for their clients. This loan would be paid back over a 5-year period with an interest rate of 3%. The EDA will secure the mortgage from property owned by the recipients of the loan. So, like I said, it's a healthy loan. The current fund balance is $271,000. So, again, we'd like to do more of these, and this is exactly what it was designed to do, to help a local manufacturer, in this case, buying machinery to allow more efficiency. The EDA has, again, reviewed and given their recommendation, and now it is before the council for your approval.
All right, any questions, anything related to the agenda item I forgot about? All right, I think now we are ready for financial dashboard. I just got really excited about the financial dashboard.
Yeah, that's okay.
It went too
Most people
fast.
are. I know. It's great. It's good news. We're reporting on 2 months through August 31st. So we've got July and August numbers are in. I'll start at the top with the town total expenditure. Spent through 8/31, $16,230,575. That represents a expenditure of 22.55%, which is under the 2-year average of 24.8%. It breaks down with the general government expenditure budget at $7 million expended, roughly approximately $7 million through 8/31. As 26%, 26.35%, well under the 2-year average of 31.8%. And on the Board of Education side, spent through 8/31, $9,192,163. Represents a 20.3% expenditure, just a hair under their 2-year average of 20.66%. So, tracking right with the 2-year average, actually tracking a little bit lower than the 2-year average in the overall scheme. If we move on to the special funds, we look at the, not the special funds, but the overtime expenditures. We look at police and dispatch overtime expenditures. You see that we have spent through 8/31, $77,991. The 2-year average is 83, so we're running under that by about $5,813. So good to report there. Under the roadways budget, we have spent through 8/31, $5,308. The 2-year average is $4,556, and again, I think in reference to bringing on the balloon festival back. So those sort out, but still running close to the 2-year average. Building and grounds, and again, roadways, not much expenditure there. Actually, I should back up. Those comments are for building and grounds, not roadways. Roadways has some involvement, but not nearly as much as building and grounds. So the building and grounds expenditure through 8/31 is $8,077. 2-year average is $6,753. That represents the expenditure and increase in terms of the balloon festival operations. With respect to the solid waste, we have tonnage, as we report, through August 31st of 1,076 tons, 1,076 tons. The 2-year average is 998. So on that, we are running slightly higher on the tonnage than we were, or in terms of our 2-year average. I don't have the details yet as to why that bump, but we'll try to see where that plays out the rest of the year. For the recycling, we happen to be under tons through the end, 98, and two-year average 105. And I'm not sure exactly why, but we'll try to get some more data on that as well. Next, we look at our revenues. So our revenues are right in line. We have received $32,379,154. That represents a percentage received of 44.98%. The two-year average is 44.42%. So that's running right in line with the two-year average. That was the total revenue. Current tax revenue budget, total received $31,627,590. Represents a percentage received of 58.17%, slightly above the two-year average of 57.77 in terms of revenue projections. So everything, again, right in line. On our general fund balance, general fund unassigned fund balance, we have a report of our balance. The bottom line there, $9,880,084, which represents a 13.72% unassigned fund balance. So still healthy, not as healthy as it was at 15, but again, we'll see where the allocation and our budget shakes out at the end of the year. This year, we were pretty much on the mark, and again, hope to be the same next year without any further impact to that fund balance. And I think it's healthy that we're, double digit, and again, it's always a fine balance between what we think we need with the rating agencies and not overtaxing or trying to be too high on the fund balance. So I think we're right in line where we should be. Next is special revenues. We take a look at the recreation fund first. There clearly the numbers are reflecting the post-COVID world that we're coming out of, and the fact that our programs are increasing. So from a expenditure side, those increase as well. We have spent $164,337, which represents 55.51%. The two-year average is 41.26. On the revenue side, we see that we have received $40,000, and that represents 17.7% and under the two-year average of 22. I think some of that is just the reflection of the timing of when those payments come in. So we'll continue to track that relative to the program increases we're doing that cost a little bit more in terms of expenditures, but also on what they're bringing in on the revenue side. Because I think I remember a report from the director that they were hitting some pretty large numbers with respect to programs that they went through in the summer and now leading into the fall. So I think from a statistics standpoint, the number of participants in programs is positive. So going to be reflected there. Robertson Airport, the fund is just chugging along. Nothing, really to report other than we finished up the fence project. So the expenditure there through August is $69,631. That represents 37.82%. We're getting reimbursed, and those reimbursements often lag when we talk about the federal and the state program. But all in all, they've received $72,000 in revenue, so about 46.75% on target. there's a lot going on. As you know, we're moving into the master plan for the airport. And as I said, finishing up the fencing project that I think looks fantastic. If you haven't been out there, looks great, done well. Again, things are right in line. On the Water Pollution Control Fund, same thing. They, on the expenditure side, have spent $2,261,394, representing a expenditure percentage of 45.51%, under their 2-year average of 50.36%. On the revenue side, they have received $577,490, representing a 13.02% received, just slightly under their 2-year average of 13.59%. So again, nothing out of the ordinary and in line. And the library fund as well, same thing, looks right in line. They have, on the expenditure side, spent a little bit more of $239,413. That represents a percentage of expenditure of 29.74, above their 2-year average of 26.71. And on the revenue side, they've received $220,138. Percentage received 27.35, above their 2-year average of 23.23. So again, up on expenditures, up on revenues, but by and large, not too far off from their 2-year average. So nothing noteworthy to report there. And last is our page on major projects report. We've added the Honor Heights project note and the expenditure there, and the number, some notes there in terms of where we're progressing with a number of connections that we have. I think I reported out at the last meeting in terms of the numbers and where we are. These are the financials that are catching up, but the issue of flow in the area, or worried about not enough people connecting, is now a moot point, because we've hit those thresholds where we're getting, almost 2/3 or 3/4 of the homeowners connected. So this just represents the numbers that obviously we're going to have to address when we get to the water pollution control meeting in October, to look at that and adjusting those rates. The high school turf maintenance fund, again, I think that's a conversation we've had recently when we got together with the Board of Education on accelerating our process in terms of timing when we sit down and actually talk. I think we've done some great work in collaborating with the Board of Education on projects like this in terms of the turf fund turf project, and recognizing that they're expensive propositions, but they have a lifespan. And so looking at that and trying to figure out how we're going to hit that number and going forward. And I think what I heard, and we're going to evaluate this through the process, is that they're living a little bit longer, I should say not living long. We're getting more out of what we thought would be a simple 10-year project, and then you'd have to replace it. That would probably get to 12 or 13 years. So that's the calculation we're trying to go after in terms of how much we need to put or continue to fund into that, so that we can, come to, closing the gap in terms of what we pay in cash and what we would have to put into capital to meet the gap, if any. So we are having ongoing discussions about that, because I haven't really talked about that. It's just sort of been a number that's been the same number repeated over and over. So 2 years I've been here, but we're going to dive into that number and take a look at it. Next is ARPA and the ARPA fund, which is obviously we're winding that down, and there are a couple of items that we'll need to take action on and look at later, likely October, November timeframe, to finish out the funding. Obviously, we were we look at, they must be spent, obligated and then spent, obligated by December 31st of this year, and then spent by December 31st of 2026. So coming close into that obligation, so we've got to finish out that with the public hearing process. Added Whiting Street reconstruction number there, and obviously that is underway. We did have some delays with respect to Aquarian and the water main or work on the water relocation. I will have an update likely tomorrow from the engineer on where we stand with that, but my information is that they're back on track to address that. There was a lull, there was some downtime on that, and so we're hoping to push them on that so that we hit the season that we're in right now to finish it up. And then the road bond issue, finishing that up with the remainder of those funds earmarked for Honor Heights and finishing up their road in Honor Heights, and then a discussion with the council going forward on whether you have the appetite to continue with another $5 million road bond, or if we'll maybe with inflation do a little bit more. I'm not sure, but that's another conversation down the road. And that will conclude the financial dashboard.
All right, before we go to happenings, any comments or questions for the town manager?
I just have one quick question.
Yep.
Getting back to the roofs at Norton Park, were metal roofs considered?
I don't know. I'll have to ask Sonny, unless Andy was part of that conversation. I didn't ask him about metal roofs.
I was just thinking longevity.
Yeah, no, it's not a bad question. My guess is but I'll find out. That's
Okay.
a good question, yeah.
Thanks.
All right, any other comments or questions? Okay, I think we're ready for happenings.
Sounds good. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I do have some happenings to share with you today. Starting off with fall bulk pickup, which if you saw our great manager's minute on it, a lot of acting skills from staff came out in that, so that was very exciting. Fall bulk pickup started on September 9th, so last Monday, and it will continue until Monday, October 28th. As a reminder, Plainville has an on-demand policy for the collection of bulk pickup, and so residents who currently have curbside waste and recycling collection are eligible to receive one bulk pickup per calendar year free of charge. And that's for acceptable large items that do not fit in the normal waste collection. If you have questions, you can contact the town of Plainville, or you could visit our website at www.plainvillect.com. And if you'd like to request a bulk pickup, please call CWPM. From the town clerk's office, absentee ballots will be available as of October 4th for the November election. Residents in need of voting by absentee ballot can contact the town clerk's office at 860-793-0221, extension 8751, or go to the town website at www.plainvillect.com for additional information. Early voting will begin on Monday, October 21st through Sunday, November 3rd. This is again early voting for the November election. For additional information regarding early voting, please contact the Registrar of Voters office at 860-793-0221, extension 8761. And just as a note, we will be doing some additional posting on social media regarding absentee ballots and early voting to make sure residents know what's going on, and if they'd like to participate in either of those, there'll be instructions on how to do that. From the public library, and for information on library programs, including registration, you can call the Plainville Public Library at 860-793-1446 or visit www.plainvillect.com/library. Baby story time on Tuesdays from 9:30 a.m. This is for babies from birth to 11 months with a caregiver. These are reoccurring events, so this is just kind of an ongoing event that they're doing. So there's baby story time. There's Wonderful Ones story time, which is on Thursdays from 9:30 a.m. for ages 12 to 23 months with a caregiver. The Terrific 2s and 3s story time is on Wednesdays from 9:30 a.m. for the ages 2 through 3 with a caregiver. And for individual events that are coming up in the library. There's the preschool craft and lunch brunch on Wednesdays at 12:30 p.m. for ages 3 to 5 with a caregiver. The pajama story time on Thursday, September 26th at 6 p.m. This is for ages 0 to 12 months with a caregiver. And this is for family groups are welcome. Children are welcome to wear their pajamas and bring their stuffed animal friends and blankets for an evening story time. No registration is required. After school craft, you'll be making pencil cases on Thursday, September 19th at 3:30 p.m. for grades 6 to 12. Participants will design their own pencil case and notebook to use during the school year. Registration is required. Homeschool Hangout on Tuesdays, September 17th, October 15th, and November 19th from 12 to 2 p.m. This is a drop-in event and is open to homeschooling families with children and teens. Families are welcome to come and connect with others who are educating their children at home, and no registration is required. 10 warning signs of Alzheimer's on Thursday, September 19th at 6 p.m. The Alzheimer's Association of Connecticut will help patrons recognize the warning signs of the disease and understand what to expect next. Animal Adaptations on Wednesday, September 25th at 6 p.m. The White Memorial Conservation Center will educate and delight patrons with props and some surprise guests to illustrate the definitions of both structural and behavioral adaptations and how adaptations help animals survive in different environments. This is open to all ages. And the weekly knitting and crocheting social on Tuesdays from 10:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. Work on a current project while enjoying a casual meetup with fellow knitters and crocheters. No registration is required. And finally, from the Senior Center, and for all information on Senior Center programs, you can call the Plainville Senior Center at 860-747-5728, and all programs are free and open to the public unless otherwise indicated. Grandparents Raising Grandchildren, there's a series of events that are coming up this month. The first is the Not So Empty Nest Annual Conference, which is on Tuesday, September 17th from 9 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. This features CT Senator as a keynote speaker, Henry Martin, and a Resource Boulevard and Breath, Body, and Mind Techniques workshop. A night presentation, How Do I Know If My Child Has Special Needs? This is on Wednesday, September 18th at 6 p.m. You could learn how to navigate the school process to advocate on behalf of your children and to access support from schools, which includes a IEP process. And the other program in the Grandparents Raising Grandchildren's lineup is informational and support meetings. This is on Monday, September 23rd at 6 p.m. You can share resources, the struggles, ideas, and more with other grandparents who are raising their grandchildren, nieces, or nephews. There is a new member meet and greet on Friday, September 20th from 9:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. This is for new members, and these are new members that joined in 2024. You could join up for coffee, baked goods, and treats, and mingle with some new members of the community. Transportation Day is Monday, September 23rd, and by appointment only, you can meet with our social worker, Stephanie, to learn about the various transportation services provided. Cholesterol and glucose education screening on Tuesday, September 24th from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. The cost is $12 for screening, and Georgia Serpka, an APRN, will give a short talk about why it's important to know your cholesterol levels and glucose levels and again, offering screening for those who are interested. The Veterans Benefit Talk on Thursday, September 26th at 10 a.m. Jason Coppola with the Connecticut Department of Veterans Affairs will talk about federal benefits available for veterans and their spouses, and this is open to veterans of all ages. In the final, very exciting event is Archery and Lunch at Shady Glen in Manchester on Friday, September 27th at 12 p.m. The cost is $25 per person. It includes transportation, and it's an hour of archery with private group instruction, equipment at Hall's Arrow Archery Range, and afterward there will be lunch at the Shady Glen Restaurant and Ice Cream Parlor. So you can check me out there on the 27th, learning how to do some archery. That's all I got.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Before we move on, any questions or comments for the town manager or the assistant town manager? All right, we can move on now to public comments. Anyone in the audience who wishes to address the council may do so. Please step forward to the podium. Give your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes to make your comments. When you hear the ring, the first ring, that means you have about 30 seconds left. When you hear the second ring, time has run out. Is there anyone that wishes to address the council? Mr. Kislik.
John Kislik, 65 Forestville Avenue. Good evening, Town Council.
Good evening.
If I don't hear that bell, can I get 30 extra seconds?
Yeah, I guess. We've never had anyone challenge us on that before.
Carnival rides, I want Nutmeg to see that. Even though, you made the excuse that it wasn't on original park property, you still turned the event into a carnival atmosphere. But that's the way it is. One other thing, those roofs at Norton, if that was me, and I'm probably pretty conservative, I would have sprayed them with algae spray. They're not bad. I see no loss of shingles. And like was said, if we probably start a fund, you can wait a while and maybe a different type of roof that will last longer. So I thought that was good. Now to get back to the main part of the meeting, I'm still disappointed in this council that you took so long to come up with this. You had 1,838 people give you a vote on the charter. You had the charter, and you had a contract. And you were like 7 lay people, all confused and floundering, and didn't know what to do, how to handle it. I'm really disappointed in you. I thought that you guys could do better than that. But
How long do you think it should have taken?
I think you should have had it done probably within a month.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, with your agreement tonight, I don't have a problem. I think that's pretty good, but I'm one of 1,838 people. When I came here tonight, I was fired up. I've already been talking to people about filing nominating petitions like we did several years back. I wanted to get at least 7 people. I know I had to wait till January to get my petitions. We only need 37 signatures to get on there. Now I'll back off because if this holds through. Now, in the town manager's contract, and in the amendment, you made some changes, but I'm hoping on item 6B-4, termination for cause, breach of contract of this agreement. So I'm wondering if that's still in there. It's kind of what you said, that you have till October of '25, but if this is still in there, it's really the same thing.
And can you just reference that section again?
Section 6B-4, termination for cause.
Yeah, that's still in there.
Okay. What I am going to Freedom of Information a copy of this amendment, like I always do.
And could I don't mean to interrupt, but the town.
Sure, we amended that. We amended it so that it's more strict and it's not relocating, not showing good faith in relocating is now cause.
Okay.
That's been changed.
Okay, so that one for cause has been changed. But I'm going to get a copy of it anyway. Now, I have a Freedom of Information, like you always do with the Balloon Fest. I'm looking for the total hours and cost from building and grounds, roadways, the police department, the cost of insurance, and I know they say they don't have any figures on it for administration costs with the town manager and Andy and our finance department and the police. They don't have a figure, but I know this comes over $50,000, so I'm Freedom of Information again, and I'll report back to the council how much the town contributed to that balloon festival.
Okay.
Thank you for the extra time.
Yep, you're welcome.
And I'm glad that you came to a decision. I like it, and I think it's reasonable for everybody. But like I said, I don't know how the other.
Wait, can you repeat that again?
It's recorded.
Thank you.
You got it done.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to address the council this evening? Marilyn? Anyone else? All right. Seeing no one, we'll close public comments. No old business, so we can move right to item 11, new business. Anyone care to make, yes, Councilman Hurley.
Motion to award RFP number 2025-02, architectural and engineering design services for middle school of Plainville renovation project to Castle Booze Associates, New Britain, Connecticut, in the amount of $2,601,403.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2,
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Gettleman.
motion to award bid number 2025-09, Norton Park Bathhouse and Filter Building Roofs under Tips USA vendor contract number 240-60401 to SR Products / Simon Roofing and Sheet Metal, Portland, Connecticut, in the amount of $31,266.
Second.
All right, a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3,
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Hurley.
motion on the town council acting as the Water Pollution Control Authority to establish a public hearing at 7 p.m. on Monday, October 7th, 2024, in Municipal Center to hear the public comment regarding sewer use rate for the period November 1, 24 to October 31, 25.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4,
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Underwood.
motion to authorize the town council chairman to execute the Second Amendment to employment agreement of Michael T. Paulus dated August 15th, 2022.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The added item number 5,
Mr. Chair,
Councilwoman Christopher.
motion to approve the small business loan for SMA Realty LLC in the amount of $33,600 as recommended by the Economic Development Agency.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item number 6,
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Underwood.
motion to approve the tax refunds as listed on the addendum.
Second.
A motion and a second on the tax refunds. Any comments, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. They'll complete new business. Other discussions of interest. We do have something under other discussions of interest tonight. I'll turn it over to the town manager.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to know, the item is about Reworld, or formerly Covanta, on the medical waste issue that you've read about and heard about. And then we've had a meeting with our health director about that. My question would be whether or not you want to discuss at the next meeting doing a letter to submit to the state, much like the town of Southington did, and we could certainly model off of their letter. But again, it's not for action tonight, more of raising the issue. There's plenty of time to do that. Should you want to take it up at your October meeting, we could do so and mirror the same, or model the same language that Southington did for submission to the state, if you felt that was what you wanted to do.
Yes.
Yeah, I do.
Yep.
I do.
As well, a resolution, I think, also I would like to see us actually pass a resolution in addition to sending a letter. I don't think it would hurt.
Okay, great. And if I'm sorry.
Councilwoman
Okay,
Moranti?
I would just say I agree. I agree. We had our meeting last week. I know I asked a lot of questions, especially about the kind of controls there are in terms of emissions monitoring. And certainly there's that angle of it, which is very important. And it's, going to be in a highly populated area, and we're relatively close to the plan. I think we have a real vested concern in it. And then, I think of it sort of as a twofold thing. Reworld is also involved right now, and I believe it's been a year or longer, on the noise issue. And that seems to be rather far from being resolved, and for the state to look at them doing even additional new things seems a bit unwise. So I think there's kind of a twofold concern, but I'm certainly am concerned about the emissions. And if you remember the questions I asked last week and, got the answers to, I certainly did not feel any more confident that the emissions would really provide the safeguards that we need. So I think it is worth providing, moving forth with this.
Absolutely. Anyone else with any comments or questions? So we'll discuss this at the next meeting.
October 7th, yeah, I can place that
Okay.
on the
Thank you.
agenda. And if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, I had one
Yeah.
other note, just that's come up about the senior center, and obviously Andy gave a lot of information, and we had the pleasure of doing another manager's minute there about their luau party, and a lot of questions and concerns about their cafe and getting that back online. So there was concern that there wasn't funding, or that the state was looking at pulling the funding. That was, again, in the mix, but happy to report I signed off on the ARPA funding dollars and for that, and we'll get that paperwork in this week, I imagine this week or next, well ahead of the deadline. So that is in place, so I think people can rest assured that we'll get that project back online once the funding comes through.
Right.
So-
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that was the result. There was that funding that had been designated by the state for, I think it was senior centers and theaters and the arts.
Yeah.
That kind of got pulled and put to something else, so that they were able to come up with this other funding.
Yeah.
And we were able to qualify,
Right.
because they were ready to go. So Sean stressed that at last week's Committee on Aging meeting.
Yeah.
That they were one of the centers that was ready to go, had their information, was able to submit it quickly. Yeah.
Right, and so it'll just take a little, it's on track. We just got to do the paperwork, let that catch up, get the funding, and then proceed with the project and getting back online as soon as we can. But just wanted to let anyone listening to let them know we're on top of it.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Does anyone want to talk about anything else tonight?
No.
Cowboys?
Yeah,
Really?
we're gonna avoid the Cowboys and the Red Sox tonight. But motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.